Welcome to our third Mineta Leadership Academy Leadership Fellows interview with Dr. Beverly Scott. Dr. Scott has over 5 decades of experience in leading public transit agencies. Having held management positions in 6 different major metropolitan areas throughout the country, she has truly seen it all. Please join us as we discuss her thoughts on leading inclusive organizations. Bev, thank you for agreeing to discuss leadership with us today. I'm hoping to learn your recipe for success.
It's absolutely a pleasure, and I'll be glad to share some of the experiences that I've had through these many years.
Well, that would be really helpful. I understand you grew up in Cleveland. How did you get into transportation from your start in Cleveland?
I fell into transportation, or I should say we kind of fell into each other. I was teaching government and public affairs at Tennessee State University, so I could tell you about all the theories of X and Y and all of that. I had a head of my department in my undergraduate department who had gone to Texas Southern University. My undergraduate degree is from Fisk, and my graduate degree is from Howard, so I'm a product of 2 HBCUs, okay? And he went to Texas Southern University to head the Department of Political Science there. The city of Houston and Texas Southern joined and were funded by Carnegie Foundation for a Houston Urban Fellows program. And so they were going to select 4 people nationally. He sent me this application and had written on the top of it, bless his heart, he's passed, thought you might be interested, okay? And I completed the application. They had big interviews and all that kind of stuff, and I was one of the 4 people they selected. And so they asked me what department did I think I wanted to work in, and I thought about it, and I said, well, I didn't see very many women or people of color. So I said, I'll tell you where I want to be. I want to be in either transportation or sanitation. And so I started in 1977 in the city of Houston's office, of public transportation. It wasn't even a department, okay?
What specific advice do you have for leaders dealing with the divisiveness and the diversity issues that we're facing today?
We haven't passed. Compliance is important, but there is a big difference between diversity. To me, is you can count numbers in boxes, okay? And you can say, okay, I got 20% of this and I got 40% of that. But to really have a sense of inclusion, that means a sense of belonging. That means that what I do is valued and validated. That means that when I think that I'm being treated fairly, and how it's treated fairly, well, I did the work on something. Do I get the opportunity to present in front of the board? Do I get the opportunity to wind up going to the meeting? Do I get the opportunity, in addition to I got additional compensation or whatever, okay? Do I really feel that I am a valued member of the team? When I think about what, these are all, they're complicated. It's a lot of words, okay? What is diversity? What is inclusion? What is equity? So now we got DEI, okay? And I do have to say this, if anybody says to me that they have a DEI initiative, I almost feel like walking out the door, because I would think that at this point, we are certainly doing more than talking about initiatives. That's something that is central as this. To me, it truly is unfinished core business that we need to do. So please do not minimize it by talk or trivialize it by another initiative, okay? Now, having said that, I think that people get the diversity part. To me, that's kind of compliance. But when you really know that you got it, when you really got it, inclusion is it's a different thing, okay? It means a sense of belonging and being valued and treated as such, okay? And that's not special. That means we're all respecting each other, that I feel that I'm walking in that room because I should be in that room. And everybody else in the room feels the same way, that I feel that I'm valued, that I belong, that I'm respected, okay? That my opinion or my point of view matters. And that it's not just about me, because I would hope that we're comfortable with being uncomfortable, okay, because I didn't have the same experience that you had or you had or you had. But what makes the soup is us being able to feel comfortable with each other, to acknowledge that we're not puree, we're chunkiness, okay? And to be able to express that in a room and be asked to express it, okay? Now, that does not mean that you need to think that I'm trying to be the person that speaks for all African Americans. No. Or no, somebody else is speaking for all Hispanics. No. But clearly, I am going to bring a perspective, and others will bring their perspectives in the room. And that's what we want, so that we can all say, well, you know, I didn't think about it that way. I didn't think about it that way. Maybe I need to put this on the table. But it's really a sense of belonging. And feeling valued. Now, the other thing I caution us all on is to think that there is some big conclusion on this, because now this to me is where the equity piece comes in. And I tell people all the time, equity is not sameness, nor is it an inoculation for life, because communities are constantly changing. The demographic within communities is changing. And as a result, these are things that have to become part of our culture and DNA, so that we are constantly understanding the fact, oh, I did not have a very heavy Asian American population in my community before, okay?
Can you describe what your basic philosophy of leadership is?
You are. Okay. And so I'm going to say to you that I am a startup, fix up, change leader, okay, manager. And we can talk a little bit about leadership and management. And so whenever you're always going for something, you're either cleaning it up, you're fixing it up, you're going to get something passed, you're getting over this mountain or this hill. New York, the 6 years of New York, we were cleaning up the New York City subway system. I mean, and the buses and everything, you know, the Rhode Island, they, you know, we wound up having to get major funding there. Used to, you know, as a startup organization. I went to Dallas. Dallas had just had you know, they were completely changing their business model at that point. So for me, I tell you one thing, in order to lead, to get a good synergy between who you are and what your skill sets are and your strengths and all of that, and what stage in its own development is an organization. I think when you can wind up getting that kind of that alignment, or at least have an appreciation for it, it's important. Now, let me tell you what I think leaders have to bring to the table. And I don't care whether it's a big organization or small. One, you got to bring, what's the vision? What is the vision? Okay, what is that big picture? What are we trying to accomplish? I think another thing that leaders have to bring to the table are, what are the values of the organization? Now, you don't create that by yourself. You have a culture, but if you may have to be in the midst of a change culture, because the values that were the values need some additional ingredients in them. But vision, values, expectations around performance. Is it okay to be okay? Are we going for excellence? Or, you know, we don't pay that much attention. So those expectations, and I tell people, if you personally, if you're not seeking to try to be A, then then you can be assured that you will wind up being B or C. Okay. And so those expectations around performance. I think the other thing is, how are we going to organize this? I think leaders have to be clear about the whole issue of kind of the institutional frame, to the extent they can, that, and then transparency and accountability. And that is where you get into, you can say all this stuff up here about what are the values and what are my expectations. But then when you get into the transparency and accountability, are you walking the talk? And the leader and your leaders within your organization, you cannot say one thing and do another. And so that goes down, and those are things you can see. Those are things you can see. So if you say that you're about diversity, but you wind up having your expanded staff meeting where you take it 4 levels down and you're looking out there, as are all of you, and seeing that the 100-some people in there are really not representative, and you've had XYZ opportunities to be able to mutually hire, okay? Or if you're saying, we value people being open, clear, and whatever. And then the promotions that wind up taking place within an organization are to people who have cases of sexual harassment, are noted for being mean-spirited to folks or whatever, dictatorial. Those are, so your actions and the actions of your management and all of that will make a difference. And so, and you have to be afraid, not be afraid of making mistakes and being clear about those. Okay, and I'm saying, and then how do you learn from that? You do the feedback and all of that.
Mentioned that I jumped onto the elevator with you and we're riding up, and I turn to you and I say, Bev, give me one piece of advice to be a leader.
It's in order to be a good leader, I tell people you have to be able, you can't lead if you can't follow. And I tell you what I mean about that. Let's take security. And I can see the examples. Let's say the security or your cyber logs, okay? The rule says, or the room that says, when you go into this room, you're supposed to sign in, put this, show your badge, do whatever. When you go through this building, when security asks you for something, you're the leader. If they want to let you go through, you don't do whatever, or we don't need you to. You can't lead if you won't follow. I won't let them do that to me. And make the point. You're supposed to do X. You're supposed to look at my badge. You're supposed to have me sign the law, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's what you need to do. Okay. And I'm saying, and those are the kinds of things. And then then you're not confused. So you can't lead if you can't follow.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, for those very enlightening insights and suggestions. The mission of the Mineta Leadership Academy is to develop leaders' competencies as outlined in our 8-point model. Just now, Dr. Scott highlighted 3 of those key competencies: promoting inclusion, leading with vision, values, and integrity, and developing emotional intelligence and utilizing self-knowledge. Very helpful were her examples that articulated how leaders can develop and how they will know that they have developed an inclusive organization where people do more than just fill out and achieve quotas, but really value and appreciate the contributions of everyone. Finally, she noted that good leaders know themselves, hire to their weaknesses, and know when it is time to move on to a new challenge. You can hear more from Dr. Scott, her views on leadership, and her ideas about the ingredients for successful leadership on our website. Thank you very much for your attention.